Kids Rock for Kids by request. This is Boston's Peace of Mind. Let's go give it a listen. Hey there. So this request comes to us from Salsacito over at cupofcoffee.com. Saul, good to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for your support from the beginning of this channel and over at cupofcoffee.com for this request. And if you want your request to move up the line, you can do that at cupofcoffee.com or Patreon. Links are in the description box. This is a collaboration of kids. I think we did this once before. I called it Muse on the thumbnail, but it was actually this group. And I think they interchange children who are talented musically and do cover songs. So in this case, it's Boston's Peace of Mind. We'll talk about it after we listen to it. So here we go. Okay. Tell me what you thought of that in the comments. Okay, they're in the studio, but this is a live performance. I want to point that out first before I say the next thing. When you're doing cover music, one of the things, the main thing you have to constantly contend with when you're rehearsing the song or working it out is what to leave in and what to take out. And it comes because of several factors. In this case, you have the brilliant Tom Scholz on guitars, who combines that incredible songwriting and guitar playing ability with incredible technical expertise when he tailored the sound of the guitar and when he layered all these guitars. And if you haven't seen Rick Beato take apart one of these songs on his machine where he can isolate every single track, you need to watch him do that a time or two, because it's very instructive. Songs that you've been listening to for 50 years, you'll hear in a totally different way. I mean, it won't change how you listen to the song, for pleasure, but it does alter your understanding of how what was done was done. Now, in the case of Tom Scholz, in his basement with his mother's M3 Hammond and all the equipment that he had, some of it he had built himself, designed and built, it was clear that he was doing some complex work in the studio recordings. And if you've ever tried to cover one of his songs in a band, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot that you have to take into account. What they did a good job, I said all that to say this, they did a good job of deciding what to leave out and what to put in. Brad Delp's voice there is no other singer on the planet like Brad Delp was, period. I mean, if you've listened to him climb into the stratosphere, you know what I'm talking about. The entire Boston album is one of the few albums in my life of almost 70 years that I can say does not have not only not a bad song on it, but every song on it is Hall of Fame rock and roll. Every single song. You can't point to a song and say, well, that's mediocre or that's ho-hum. They're not. None of them. Rock and Roll Band, Smokin', Peace of Mind, More Than a Feeling. I mean, Hitch a Ride. And all of the guitar work and all of the vocals are incredible. And it's not just because Tom Scholz mixed it the way he did in the studio. I'm not going to critique this because this is not a group of children that have been together for a long time. This is children that come and go, musicians that come and go. Okay, so they had a limited amount of time to decide how they were going to present this. Certain things, like even at the end of the song, they left out the guitar outro. Now, the guitar actually continues. Only this time, this part here, okay, that part there is played more than once throughout the song on acoustic guitar, but the final time, after the vocals are finished, there's an outro in which the electric guitar plays that part, and then all the rest of the electric guitar tracks kick in. They chose to leave that out because it fades away. So they had to find a way to end the song, and that's always a struggle when you're doing a cover, 50% of the time. And so that is one thing that they had to decide to do, and it's it's easily done, but it alters how you hear the song. And it makes you, when you hear these different things they leave in and take out, they're trying to decide what's going to hold you to the song in spite of the fact that you've been listening to it now for 5 decades, right? They don't want to ruin it for you. They didn't. They did a great job here.
People living in competition. I want us to have my peace of mind. Yeah.
heard a difference there in the way that she sang that, the way that ended out, because you can't add the layered vocals in a live performance like that. I mean, you can, but they didn't. They chose not to. So because she doesn't have the layered vocals to allow that long sustain of that vocal there at that point, she chose to cut it off, and then they went into the guitars. It's all these little kind of details like this that have to be, that decisions have to be made on. And they made them well, is what I'm trying to say throughout this song. It was a great performance. We never tackle a Boston song live, and it was me that nixed it. Not because I thought we were inadequate to play it, but because you just, if you can't get into the ballpark, you just don't put on the uniform. And that's how I felt about Boston. Boston is one of those bands that's almost sacred to me. That first album changed rock music. So when I hear somebody play it, I'm always rooting for them to do it, you know, and they did. These kids did a great job of this song. You can take this song and you could say, hey, I'm just going to do an acoustic unplugged performance of it. You could do that with a lot of Boston music. So you can alter it still and give it that same feel. But there's something so iconic about the way that Tom Scholz mixed this album that you just simply, I mean, even he did not replicate it. As good as 2 and 3 sound, Boston One, the first one, blew everybody's mind, and the music is incredibly written. Rick Beato said he felt like the outro of the guitars, Hitch a Ride, Gonna Hitch a Ride, I think that's where, yeah, he said he felt like that was one of the greatest guitar outros ever in the history of rock and roll. That's the kind of level that we're talking about for the performance of that album and for the way it was written and done. So, yes, there has to be some takeaways and there has to be some additions when you're doing a cover of something this iconic. And they did it. They pulled it off. So, Sal, thank you very much for this recommendation. And I'm glad to see you. And I was glad to see this. And let me know what you thought of this in the comments, especially those of you who were around when Boston released this album. This blew my mind so much that I went out and I bought bookcase speakers for my van just so I could crank it as loud as possible in my van and my friends could hear it the way it was intended to hear. You know, not on some tinny car speaker, but on a great big system, right? So, yeah, that's how much I love this band and this song, and I'm always holding my breath when I watch somebody do a cover of it. But usually today people pull it off, and that's just fine by me. So anyway, I'm rambling, and I will see you later. I got to go. I got more things to do. So take it easy. Glad you watched this with me. Bye now.